Now, when you say anatomically correct, are you talking about...
Anatomically modern is the technical phrase that we use, because sometimes if we say human, well, that could mean an ape man or this or that or the other.
If you're talking to Leakey, it could almost mean a chimpanzee.
Right. So we need to specify anatomically modern. That means the same form as us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in other words, not an ape man, not a some kind of human ancestor, but a human being like ourselves. The skeleton was described as a skeleton like ours. Now, sometimes when some orthodox scientists hear of a skeleton, an anatomically modern skeleton, human skeleton, being found in some very ancient layer of rock, they immediately say, well, it must have been an intrusive burial. What they mean by intrusive burial is, say a few thousand years ago, perhaps an Indian died in the state of Illinois there, and his comrades dug a hole, put the body in it, and therefore, when you find a skeleton a few thousand years later, it's in a very ancient layer of rock, but it doesn't belong there. You know, in other words, it doesn't belong in the layer of rock that's millions of years old. Somebody just dug a hole, buried the skeleton there, covered it over, and when you come upon it years later, you mistakenly think that the skeleton belongs to this very ancient layer of rock.
That's their argument.
That's an argument, but in this case it really doesn't apply, because normally people don't dig holes 90 feet deep to put their skeletons in, and if they had, they would have had to have broken through the thick layer of slate rock that was found directly above the skeleton and was described by the original discoverers as being unbroken. So that kind of objection doesn't appear to apply in a case like this. And getting on to some other discoveries that kind of go beyond just stone tools and the human bones, there was a very interesting report from Scientific American from the year 1852, which told of a beautiful metallic vase with floral inlaid silver patterns on it that was blasted out of solid rock 15 feet below the surface of the ground by workers who were excavating a foundation for a building near Boston. So, all right, so you have this beautiful metallic vase coming from 15 feet deep in solid rock. Again, from this report, we were able to go to the United States Geological Survey and ask them, well, how old is the rock at this particular location at that particular depth? And they said, oh, it's a very well-known formation. It's called the Roxbury Conglomerate, and it's from the pre-Cambrian period, and it would be about 600 million years old. So that's evidence there, coming from a scientific journal, a report of a beautiful object being found in layers of rock 600 million years old.
Gee.
And there are just dozens and dozens of such discoveries. There are reports of coal miners at Heavener, Oklahoma, digging. They were in the coal mine about 2 miles down, and they were blasting out cavities. They call them rooms to get at the coal. And some of the miners reported finding a stone wall 2 miles below the surface of the ground, a stone wall made of polished stone, polished rectangular stones. And they said what happened is when they reported this to their supervisors, they were ordered out of the mine. The mine was filled up, and they were sent to another mine quite far away. There are a lot of interesting reports from of discoveries that were made in coal mines, and I'm told by sources that these discoveries continue to be made up to the present day. Of course, what often happens with these discoveries is we never hear about them, because the coal miners will just take these objects, put it on their mantle over their fireplace, and nobody will hear about it. Eventually they die, and the family members just take it and sell the objects at a rummage sale or something, and we don't get to oftentimes get the objects preserved.
You said something that's intriguing, that the coal miners would report their find to their supervisor, and then they would call them all out of the mine and close the mine and fill it up and send them somewhere else. I find this incredible in light of the fact that neither the supervisor nor the mine owners would probably realize the significance, nor would they probably care, especially in light of the fact that they had money down there that they were trying to bring up. Who in the world could have influenced them to fill up a mine and walk away from money?
Well, I think it may have something to do with geologists they may have employed, and it may also be because of through their boards of directors, they may have been in contact with foundations who realize the explosive impact that these discoveries could have on people's worldview, and it may. I think it's the same sort of reason. Well, why would scientists today try to stop NBC from showing a television program about some strange archaeological discoveries? I think they realize that these discoveries, which tell us something about our human origins, who we are and where we came from, could have ultimately a big impact. Yeah, because I think we have to understand that our whole civilization is based on us having a particular concept of who we are and where we came from. You know, for example, the civilization of Europe in the Middle Ages was heavily based on Christian concepts of who we are and where we came from, and you had a whole culture, that was based on all those big, beautiful cathedrals being built. All the artwork that came down from those times was religiously inspired. The whole way of life turned around the sacred calendar of the church. Those were the big events, and most people were involved in all of that. Now today we have an entirely different emphasis in society. If you go to any city in Europe that was there since the Middle Ages, you always see that the biggest building was the cathedral, the church. Today, you go to a city in the United States or Europe that's a more modern city, the biggest building is what? It's always the bank buildings. The main activity, the main activity that everyone revolves around is consuming products that are made by industries that the same people work in, and people are getting rich off of that. And I think there's one of the reasons why so many of the very wealthy people in this country like Darwinism is they called it social Darwinism because it justified the positions that they found themselves in, and I think they want to keep the current social arrangements intact. And if we get another picture of who we are and where we came from, that ultimately might disturb all these different arrangements that people want to keep intact.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. Not just keep intact, but that they've taken great pains to build in order to destroy or attempt to destroy the system that had prevailed before. I think the biggest target, of course, is religion. Not just the Christian religion, but Orthodox Judaism, the Islamic religion, all religions that there are, except the religions that allow man to be God. What do you think about that?
Oh, I do think that there's an agenda like that. I mean, we can see it in this country. As I said, you've got it mandated that you can't teach anything other but a very atheistic, materialistic Darwinian theory of evolution in the nation's tax-supported schools. And any time that's challenged, you get committees of Nobel Prize-winning scientists getting together to pressure the courts to keep these laws intact. Every once in a while, in one of our southern states or midwestern states, the state legislature will attempt to pass a law saying, well, let's present an alternative in the science classrooms. They don't even call it, they even say, well, we won't even talk about the Bible. We'll just talk about intelligent design. We'll make it non-sectarian. But in every single case, the federal courts have always struck those laws down at the direction of the fundamentalist Darwinists within the scientific community.
Well, the correct term, I think, is the correct term, I think, is Marxist socialists. Charles Darwin certainly was one.